Based on the award-winning comic book series by Charles Forsman, End of the Fxxxing World sees two 17-year-old outsiders, James and Alyssa, embark on a road trip to find Alyssa's estranged father, who left home when she was just a child. James, who's pretty convinced he's a psychopath, has decided it's time to graduate from killing animals to something bigger, and he's already got a target in mind. Alyssa, the embodiment of existential angst, feels like she doesn't fit in at her new school despite being quite popular. Together, they get caught up in a trail of violent events that grow increasingly more ominous as their quest progresses.
This week on You've Never Seen That, the end of the Fuxxing World.
From Atlanta, Fulton County.
But one objective.
The color I see. Then you maintain the status.
December 7th, night.
You never seen that! You never seen that!
Welcome back to yet another episode of the You've Never Seen That podcast. This is the show where two dudes watch a random episode of a random show they've never seen before, and then we discuss the plot, the characters, and the fandom surrounding it. As always, this sexy voice on this side of the table belongs to ya boy Bell.
3 feet apart, right here, as always, the Reverend Dr. Michael Haas.
Producer Josh in the back.
He's in the back. You can't
He's
see him.
back there. You can't see him. We always see him. Say hello.
Hello.
Those of you watching on the YouTube might notice that there is a
Bam!
clock in the top corner here.
Is it up there or is it up?
I don't know
Is
which side he put it
doesn't-
on.
It's gonna be.
If you're listening on one of the audio formats, check us out on the YouTube because this will make much more sense.
Yes.
The episode of the show that we are watching for this podcast is titled End of the Fuxxing World.
And if you're wondering, while watching or listening, why the word keeps getting bleeped out, it's because now that we're on YouTube, we have to wait 5 minutes. We don't actually know how long, but there's an arbitrary period before we can use strong adult language.
Which includes the word
So that's what the timer is for. If you're listening along, go back to the beginning of the show, start your stopwatches with us, and you can have an irrelevant moment 5 minutes from now when you realize we've changed from bleeping to just swearing.
So, until this time,
That
timer, one of the timers,
Over here?
hits 5 minutes.
Yes.
Every time you hear us talk about the title of the episode, which is,
The end of the fucking world.
it'll be bleeped.
It'll be bleeped.
But once we hit 5, we'll be
We're
in the
good.
clear.
We're in the clear.
We got that all the way. Once again, if you're listening to one of the audio formats,
Thank you so much.
hop over to the YouTube. Check us out there.
You can see our or I'm gonna throw this one out there since this is our 4th episode.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they've built up such an impression of what we sound like from our voices. Seeing us would ruin it. If they're willing to take the plunge and jump onto YouTube to see us,
the Dr. Reverend Michael Hayes, not what you thought you
Yeah.
expected.
yes.
You thought he
Should I be wearing like one
lab
of the
coat?
Yeah. Why would it be a lab coat?
You're a doctor.
Oh.
Like one of those, like the.
I thought like one of the
like the president's wife. You're a doctor.
Oh, we're not. That's not what this is about. That's not what this show is about. This show is about two dudes who we watched Netflix's End of the World. Thank you. I was just really preparing for it.
I just realized how much work we're making producer Josh
Every
do.
time we say it, he has to go back and bleep this.
So before we recorded this episode,
Yes.
the three of us were talking about the show, and we tend to try to keep most conversation about the show
To a minimum.
so-
In the group chat,
yes.
in person, in the Discord, wherever.
So I want to dive right in
Yes.
with what we knew about the show. The only thing that I knew about the show was that it was British.
That is close to the one thing I didn't know about this show.
And the two of you were like, "Did you know the show was? Did you know the show was British?"
I don't think we said it like that. But
And I said, "Oh, it's British, isn't it?" And then we had biscuits, which are cookies.
I thought we had Triscuits, which are
Oh,
cookies.
oh,
Wait, fantastic.
Oh, we did it, you guys.
We made it. We watched End of the Fucking World. Oh, that feels good. It feels good.
Feels good.
Feels good to say that.
Anyway, back to my point.
Yeah, you knew this was British.
Quite literally, the only two things I knew, it was on Netflix, and it is British.
I knew quite a bit more than you did. I thought someone thought they were.
How did you not know that this was British?
So here's the thing. Someone from my work said they liked it and they watched it. Not the same guy who watched Gravity Falls. Different guy.
Okay.
But I remember seeing a lot of promo for this. I think I wanna say that this season 1 of this came out right when Netflix started doing the hover trailer.
Yeah.
When you hover over something, it plays the trailer. I want to say that was when Netflix started doing that, and this was the show that they were really promoting at the time. Because I remember seeing the promo a lot. Because I wrote, like, I think someone is a sociopath or has schizophrenia or something. I know someone watched this, and then when I clicked on it, I saw that the Netflix synopsis said, a budding teen psychopath and a rebel hungry for adventure embark on a star-crossed road trip in a darkly comic series.
Why that voice, though?
I don't know. That's the Netflix guy. We go back. We got beef.
We watched season 1, episode 2, aptly titled episode 2.
Yeah.
What year was this? 2017?
It's pretty recent,
yeah,
wasn't it? I mean, it's in it. We're on season 2, and I don't know if it finished, but yeah, 2017.
Okay.
2017.
Yeah,
2017. Yep.
He's got it pulled up there. Yeah, I recognize the main kid that plays James from.
Really?
I recognize him from an episode of Black Mirror.
I knew you were gonna say that.
And
It's because he's British, isn't it?
it's because he's British.
He said that. Oh, British.
Because I knew I'd recognize him from something, and I couldn't quite figure it out. And then I went to the IMDb, and I was like, oh yeah, he was in that weird episode of Black Mirror.
I've only ever seen like 5 episodes, so.
But
Is that the one where the Roomba has a knife and kills people?
yep.
Yep. Okay.
The cast in this show there's like the 2 kids.
Yep.
And then like the handful of people they meet on the way.
That seems about right.
That's the entire cast. And I after watching
did you know that the graphic novel was actually written as an allegory for the story of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? It's just
I can't tell if this is a bit
a
or if
teen
this is-
journey of self-discovery and
this
acceptance.
Is this a bit or is this
Yeah, no, this is a bit. It's not real. This is not real. Nothing about that is real.
I know, I don't
It's
know
a bit.
anymore.
That is a bit.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Rudolph, why is your nose red? Murder.
I genuinely knew nothing about the show other than that it was British, and then
What if there's like a really dark version of the claymation where Rudolph is just murdering people?
well, considering that Hollywood doesn't have ideas anymore, and they're just like, let's do the origin story of Barney, and it's like a really depressing story of a purple dinosaur that whatever.
His dad, Barney, is the purple Triceratops and the T-Rex from the We're Back, a dinosaur story, but like in a very dark world where he's addicted to speed.
I honestly would not. God damn it!
Who do we pitch that to? Because
hey,
Michael Bay is waiting to pay us a lot of
Producer
money.
Josh, can you bleep that whole part out because that's not a bad idea.
It's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, Michael Bay might be listening.
Long-term friend of the show, Michael Bay. No, there's not enough explosions in that.
What was I say?
Next year from Christopher Nolan,
the first minute,
Barney Begins.
the first minute of this show, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I have no idea. I have no idea what this is.
I had
about.
no idea what it was.
I know that I knew it was British. I knew it was on Netflix, and I don't really know that many people that watched it.
I literally only know the one person.
But I feel like it was a popular show. I mean, based on the IMDb ratings, the rating is pretty high.
That sounds right.
I also, for some reason, thought it was an hour-long show, and it's.
I thought it was an
it's,
hour-long show too.
you
One
know,
of my first notes.
22
minutes.
22 minutes, and I was like, okay. So other than that, what else was in your knowledge of the show going in?
I knew that there was a psychopath. I didn't know if that meant they were like I didn't know if they were like. I didn't know if it was someone who was like schizophrenic or sociopathic or psychopathic. Like I never knew exactly, but I knew that there was someone with like a very like fractured psyche in the show.
I think
I didn't
that maybe it's because the show is called End of the Fucking World that I thought it was going to be about the apocalypse, the end of the world.
So you thought this was like a apocalyptic?
Yeah, I thought it was like
you thought this was like a Mad Max.
I thought it was like these two teens are like the last living people on Earth, and they're like Mad Maxing through British.
Would you have liked that more or less?
I don't. That's a tough
Hard to say
question
because that's a concept of a show you've never seen, and a couple days ago this was literally a show you've never seen.
I will say it was a little refreshing to get an episode very early
at the
on.
beginning. Yeah,
this is just the second episode of
Yes.
the first season.
It's nice when there's still exposition dumping in the show because then we're not so lost.
Because we didn't have to work too hard to figure out what was going on.
No, and at no point did I have to go, who's the dick grab? Is he important to the story? Did he just walk in and grab dick, or is he
just grab?
He
touched his. He touched his.
Is that?
And why did that happen?
Is that? But the good part is at the beginning of a show, I know, like, no, it's not a reoccurring character or something.
Well, okay. Let's
imagine Game of Thrones, and it's specifically the scene.
Hang on.
Okay, what are you imagining? You got to unarchive it. Get past the last season because I got some bad memories. But get back in there.
I am imagining Game of Thrones.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, imagine the scene where Ramsay is cutting off Theon's penis.
Sure.
Just for the direct allegory to this show, the direct parallel, and eating a sausage.
Okay.
Now imagine if there was no exposition to that, and you just saw that.
Don't you wish that sometimes we watched a show that we have seen, but out of context, as if we hadn't seen it?
I kind of, yeah. There's some shows that I look at and I was like, this would be very challenging.
It also
imagine watching a Marvel movie but getting dragged there by like your partner or boyfriend or whatever.
Yeah, I can.
So I'm confused. African Catman is angry at America Boy.
I can completely understand why people think that this podcast is highly frustrating.
In our defense, we have not gotten that review, but we've also not gotten many reviews. So
No. A lot of the reviews have
Oh,
been...
you mean all the people who tell us how incredibly wrong we are and how frustrated they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, weirdly enough, of the few reviews we've gotten, that's very high.
This is what we do, though. I
can't believe we got that one review last week of someone who was like, Blind Spot is the best show ever written.
She teaches that kid football. Anyway, we're not talking about
gets
Blind
all those
Spot.
commemorative tattoos.
Let's talk about who the show's for.
Yes. That's always a big one here on the You've Never Seen That podcast.
This is kind of for me. I was into it.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I feel like it's, it is about angsty teenagers,
Yes.
like right on the cusp of adulthood.
Yep. Coming of age.
There's a lot of adult suggestive themes,
There
like
is,
drugs and sex and
dick grabbing. I don't know why you're laughing. That's the thing that happened.
And just like general adulthood stuff, right?
Dick grabbery, if you will.
Can you put a counter of how many times
I've
he said? Is that too much work for you?
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing that.
Okay. Just so I'm clear, the review that producer Josh has pulled up, that's about the end of the fucking world, not our podcast, right?
Correct.
Okay, it just says very dark humor for older teens, so I honestly don't know. I would say that that's accurate. Older teens, I wrote down, I guess that this was probably like ages 15 to 25. I don't see anyone over 35 really digging into this.
Yeah.
Just because at that point we've already made our attachments to our coming of age stories.
Millennials, Gen Zers.
Yeah.
That's kind of who I think it's for.
Yeah.
It is very dark.
Yep.
The humor is
I can't imagine anyone in their early 40s with a family asleep downstairs going, "Quick, honey, we have to find out if those teens bang and one of them kills the other one."
You'll find out on this podcast.
We'll find out on this podcast, but
yeah, I think it's the humor is very dry British, like dark British humor.
I just had a thought that's completely unrelated to this.
Sure.
But do you think that for every show that we've done out there in the universe, there is probably a companion podcast that actually goes through that entire show? Like, is there an End of the Fucking World podcast that goes through the entirety of the show?
No,
Like, are we just a gateway podcast?
I would say not. I mean, how many podcasts are there? Like 20, 30?
20, 30, maybe 40 at most?
There's us.
Us.
There's NPR has
NPR has one, yeah, Tiny Desk. The Get Up on Spotify.
Yeah, that's a
now
good
that's
one.
there's a curated playlist.
I can't even think of another podcast.
Yeah, no, Joe Rogan.
Oh.
There is Joe Rogan. Yeah. Yep. So,
Yeah, so I'd say no.
my God, there's over 1.5 million podcasts. I know that this is something irrelevant to look up in the middle of our podcast, but that's impressive.
That's the
34 million
2020 stats from October
34
2020.
million episodes. Wow.
Well, if you're listening to ours,
Thank you. We know that you have a choice in podcast, and we're glad that you choose us.
back to my point. It's very much.
Do you think that YouTube
dark-
is cheapening our brand?
No.
No? You think it's elevating?
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to end up wearing bikinis to sell this podcast on YouTube, are we?
Sexy voices accompanied by
A video.
sexy
Visuals. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'm just worried that, like, episode 8 of our video format is going to be you and I mud wrestling while talking about young Sheldon. I'm just worried that we're going to get there. I don't want to... I want to...
Don't give them any ideas.
All the reviews
The
just
comments,
say will not come back until...
what? This is episode 4.
This is episode 4 of the
reboot?
video format reboot.
When we get to episode 8,
Yeah.
the comments will be
Mud wrestling.
something about mud wrestling.
Something about mud wrestling.
I don't remember what I was talking about.
We were talking about the demographic of this show.
Okay.
And it being it being teens and people who are on the cusp of, coming of age.
The humor is very unique because it is. I thought there were very funny parts in this, but it is very much like
It seems weird to me because it's both younger humor and British humor, and when you put them together in the mixing bowl, it's different.
yeah. Did you know that this was for? It's produced for Channel 4, and Channel 4 is like just a popular British channel. It's
This
like
was
basic cable.
produced for so this was meant for this was a
Just a regular British.
but this was a broadcast
Yeah.
release in
Channel
Britain.
4.
So in England, this was a regular broadcast release.
Can we sidebar really quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to
yeah.
sound.
We haven't done that yet.
I don't want to sound like dumb.
Okay.
To the
All right,
audience.
we don't want to. Okay.
What is the difference between Great Britain and England and the United Kingdom?
Okay.
Are they the same?
I'm gonna take a stab here. I'm really glad we're sidebarring because if there's
Because-
any British people,
Because I don't know.
if there's any British people, I don't want them thinking I'm ignorant. But I'm gonna take a stab. I'm pretty sure the United Kingdom refers to England itself
Sure.
and all of the territories. So like, I wanted to say French Guyana, but I realized that it has the word French in it, so probably not British. Or American Samoa. Wait, no, that might be someone else too. United Kingdom means like all their territories around the world.
Okay, so then what's
Britain?
Britain?
Britain is just England and Scotland, and I believe Ireland when it used to be a part of it. And then I think England is literally just the place that London is the capital of.
Then what's Wales?
Also part of Britain. I completely forgot that Wales existed.
Okay, sidebar over.
Okay, yeah. This week on You Don't Need a Geography Lesson.
Channel 4 is a popular British.
I think you can just say British.
Yeah, you're pulling it up.
Yeah.
It's like basic cable. This was made
So this
for.
is ABC. This is the ABC of Britain.
Imagine a show coming out on CBS, and they're like, now on CBS, holy fucking shit.
Horny teens might die.
Also, I just wait, what?
That's what the show is. That's what this show is.
I just realized we've watched Schitt's Creek and End of the Fucking World. What else is in the hat that we have? That's
What else do we have on there? We have Blumpkin Manor. That's on there. We have Urethra. That's the
I don't
I don't know.
I don't like this bit.
Okay, fine.
Let's talk about the characters quick. There's only a couple.
There's only a few. There's a very short amount. I am still agonized that they all have names and I don't know because they never say them.
So there's James and there's Alyssa.
James and Alyssa they would be the leads, and it's very easy. Like, they say their names constantly. They talk to one another. It's super easy to pick up on.
Here's my question. So
Yeah.
we learned in the pre-roll, which, if you're a regular listener of the show, you know that the pre-roll
That's
is
a lot of times where we figure out stuff about the show.
we learn stuff for the first time.
Yeah.
So Alyssa is supposed to be at a new school,
Okay.
and she's supposed to be popular.
I didn't know that.
How she's very unlikable.
Yeah, very unlikable. I actually write that down in my notes.
And I think, I mean, like, it's like, it starts off kind of like endearing because she's like, I'm a brat.
Yeah.
But then you're like, okay, quite literally everything is annoying.
Let me find my exact note on my notes because here it is. During this note, I wrote, I know she's supposed to be a likable asshole.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't know that I like her so much.
That's perfect because it goes from you don't like her, but you don't like her so much that you kind of like her.
But then
And
you
then it
realize
goes
that
full
that's the
circle.
trope, and you don't like her anymore.
And it's not that you don't like her as an actress because I think
No, she's great. She's a very good actress.
She plays a part.
Yeah, the part is great. But also that speaks to the writing because the character Alyssa is written that way.
So
I just didn't realize how annoying that character was.
she's supposed to be popular,
Yeah, I don't get it.
like because she doesn't dress
No.
typically like popular 17-year-old out of high school.
No, she dresses like Janice Ian from Mean Girls.
Yeah.
Which I'm
And
saying,
then-
I use that as the example because Janice Ian is not the paradigm of popularity in Mean Girls.
And then the other thing that we learn in the pre-roll is James, who is the main character, kills animals. Like he's
he's
like a
killing
psycho
animals.
kid.
But here's the thing: there's only one episode before this one, so was that episode just rife with animal killing?
I'm sure he probably like. I don't know. I can't say.
Also, there's
I can't
mention
say
of
I'm sure because I don't know.
who knows.
Go ahead. What?
Well, there's mention of animal killing in this one, and he's just kind of like, yeah. Here's the thing, though. I get it. Like, he's written really well as, like, a budding psychopath. But at the same time, like, one of the biggest problems and challenges I see with writing that in this show is that makes his character very boring.
He is very boring. He's one-dimensional. He's boring. He's kind of plays. He reminds me of like a Dexter Jr.
Oh, my God. My very last note in my notes. This is kind of like Netflix Kids' Dexter. Literally in my notes.
Like, this could be almost like the Dexter origin
Dexter
story,
Light, yeah.
Right? But he also plays it very well.
Yeah. They're both great
The
actors.
Acting in the show is great.
Yeah. Even the tertiary and secondary characters seem to be acted and cast very well.
Well, the only other characters we really see is Alyssa's mom.
Well, we see Alyssa's mom and her
the
boyfriend.
Dude that she's with.
They're both acted very well.
Yeah.
We have James's dad.
Do we meet James's dad?
Yeah, he has a couple really funny quotes.
We do meet James's dad.
And
Yep.
he calls the cops at the end.
Yep. Okay, I remember.
But we briefly
Yeah.
It's only very briefly that we see him.
And then we meet a guy that picks him up, and we'll talk about what happens.
Oh, the thing is, that guy has a name. Every character has a name. James's dad, Alyssa's mom, the boyfriend, the guy who picks them up, they all have names in here like Phil, Tony, Gwen,
I mean,
Martin.
I don't know. Maybe it's Martin.
Who the hell is who? Martin? Is it Kyle? Who's Rita?
Are you saying that all British people look the same?
I'm saying that all British people need to stop having names like Gwen and Tony. Tony Blair, Gwen Stefani, like enough already.
Martin is the one that drove him.
Martin
Okay.
is the one that
That's-
drove.
That's
that.
what I thought.
Okay. Who's played by Geoff Bell? I just wanted to say Jaw.
Oh, like like he spells it Geoff.
Yes, yeah.
So the show is not at all what I thought it was going to be.
I would say it both was and wasn't for me.
Well, let's jump into how it starts.
Yeah. There are the thing about this is there's two super simple overarching plots.
Okay.
The main plot is Alyssa and James are on a road trip.
Uh-huh.
That road trip is full of pitfalls, like her being a really obnoxious person and him being maybe a serial killer.
Yeah.
That's the whole plot.
So I wrote down, it starts off with a voiceover with James. And I was like, okay, it's going to be one of these shows. But
Yes.
then Alyssa also has a voiceover. And then you
Yes.
realize, like, okay, they're both the main character. They both have an inner monologue. You're following their perspectives of what's happening.
Yeah.
There is a cool thing that they do in the show where it starts at a random moment. You don't know what's going on. And then as you continue to watch, you realize it's like 5 minutes in. That's where you start.
Yeah.
And then it brings you back to that moment.
Yes.
Because it starts, I'm like, what is happening? There's like a car on fire. He doesn't have a shirt on. They're walking, like, I don't know what's going on.
It's funny because it seemed like I thought that was a direct continuation of the episode
Right.
prior.
Right.
And I was like, well, that makes sense. They somehow ended up in this
It's
debacle.
the end of the fucking world.
Yeah, they ended up in this debacle, and I'm going to find out why. And then it jumps back to 3 hours earlier, but then shows that over the next 2 minutes. And I was like, oh, it just jumps around in time a whole lot. And the conversation moves from inner monologue to outer dialogue frequently.
Right.
And it almost seems to be aware of itself, but not aware of itself. And I was like, this is probably the coolest representation of a graphic novel I've ever seen. Because in graphic novels...
I guess I didn't even consider that. But
Yeah.
because I also did not know it was based on a graphic novel.
Yeah.
But now that I know that,
It makes sense. Because it looks... When they jump back and forth in scenes, it's like moving to a different panel.
Also, graphic novels like rely heavily on inner monologue to
Precisely.
push the story.
Yeah.
One thing that you didn't include, or maybe you did include, did you talk about about him wanting to kill her?
Not yet, no.
Does he kill her?
I don't know.
If you've seen the show, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah. I did before the show happened, and I was going to bring this up. I did look up if he actually ever kills her.
Okay.
I didn't I just Google searched it, so I didn't look at any of the results.
Sure.
So we're all in the dark on this one.
So,
But if we want to know, I have it.
it's on a different tab.
It is on a different tab. I have Schrodinger's answer right
The
here.
show,
Schrodinger's murder.
the show jumps around in time, but in a way that's not distracting.
Yes.
You know, a lot, like for other shows that do that, like Lost is a one that like later on series.
Yeah.
That they jump around in time and it's unclear where they are.
Whoever wrote this, whether it's directly relying on the graphic novel's take on this or whether it was the screenwriters adapting this, their awareness of how much they're jumping around in time and where they're jumping around in time and why they're doing it makes it seamlessly stitched together.
So what we're talking about is very, very early on in this episode, we get a seemingly flash forward of him talking about killing her.
Yes.
And holding a murder weapon.
Yeah, holding a knife.
And then it cuts back to them in the road. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, what is this show about?
Yeah.
I've only seen one episode.
I don't know where it is in my notes here, but at some point I mention like, does he kill her?
Well, so the other things that happen, again, at this point, early on in the episode, like, I'm still thinking, okay, he doesn't have a shirt on.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the middle of nowhere. There's no one around them.
You still thought this was an apocalyptic show.
Something is on fire.
Yeah.
He's got, like, burn marks all over his arm.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, this is about the end of the world. Like, this is
That makes sense.
Something has happened. They
Sure.
are the only two people left.
They are in like remote England now that we know where it is.
We then cut to them playing laser tag. Did you...
Well, here's the thing. I just want to set up. This was when I knew when I knew this was based on a graphic novel. I was like, oh heck yeah, Umbrella Academy was great.
Yeah.
It was a Netflix original. I didn't know this was made for British television at the time. The moment that this sets up the humor for me is when they do the inner monologue. The James asks Alyssa. He says, is the car gonna blow up? And she goes, no, it's not gonna blow
It's
up.
not a movie.
It's not a film. And then in her head she says, if this were a film, we'd probably be American. And I was like, oh, they're British.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
They're British.
Then it cuts to them like on the road earlier, and like he says like, what do you want to do? And she's like, well, we can do anything. And she like looks,
Which
and
makes
gives,
me
she
think
gives
it's
him,
the end of the world.
yes, she's like,
'Cause-
we can do anything. And she gives him the smoky eyes, and you're like, they bought a pho, and it just cuts.
You can say the whole word.
To the- no, I know I
past,
can now.
We're past the. He probably
up?
took,
Is it up?
he took the timer off.
But how many? What are we counting up now?
I don't know.
Was it how many times I said dick grab, or how many times we said fuck?
I believe the phrase was dick grab.
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Oh boy. I promise it's not always this type of show.
It's not, but it also is.
Go on.
It cuts to laser tag. So I'm assuming at this point, this is where you realize that society hadn't ended.
So I thought that they just broke into an abandoned
Laser
tag place until
So in
you-
this apocalypse scenario, the power grid is still running.
right
Right.
until you meet the laser tag attendant,
Attendant.
and then I'm like, oh, the world hasn't ended yet.
I'm sad your dedication, your commitment to the bit faltered there, and you weren't just like, that dude is super dedicated to working at the laser tag.
I unrelated made a quick note that I miss playing laser tag.
I do too.
Producer,
The weirdest thing.
producer Josh, he knows. We used to all go over to
Grand Slam.
Grand Slam, yeah, you were there.
Here's the thing. I was gonna say the laser tag that they have in the show looks like Grand Slam.
I used to do this thing. where
I-
they would get so mad
I don't
at me.
know where this is going. I don't know where this is going.
I would sneak up on people on the other team, and I would put them in a headlock and point my laser gun to their head, and I'd like drag them over to our base, and then the people would be like, "You can't do that." I guess that's against the rules.
Have you ever killed a small animal?
What?
I'm reassessing all the times on this podcast you've told me that you want to drown me in a river now. I'm seeing them slightly differently because of this show.
This is me.
That you think was
This is me thinking about the near
drowning.
future.
Yeah. Josh, give me all your money or I'm going to tell everyone you grabbed my dick.
Wait, what?
No, that's what happens in the show. If you're, then I'm Alyssa, so I'm doing what she does.
So
in
if
the
you're
show.
Alyssa, are you gonna ask Belle to
Cuddle me?
stick his tongue in your ear?
Oh,
I
that
was
does
gonna make
happen.
a joke about-
That does happen, yes.
Yeah, spoiler alerts.
Yeah.
Producer Josh.
Which we are committed to this show. So.
Producer Josh. They leave the laser tag.
I would
Didn't even see you do that.
committed to the bit.
And then I looked over.
I guess we're not doing. Okay. All right. I guess we're not doing it.
Check out the YouTube to understand what just
It's a
happened.
joke that's only in the visual format.
Oh wow! I did not expect you to take your headphones off and. So
I am committed
they,
to this show.
They leave the laser tag, and she asks him to put his tongue in her ear.
I didn't write that down.
In my notes, I wrote, "Do girls like that?"
Here's the thing.
Listen.
I have-
I'm a soon-to-be married man.
Sure.
So
I'm
I don't know
what you would
I don't
call
know
a
how these
healthy
things
bachelor?
work anymore.
Yeah. I don't. Here's the thing.
Let's not kink shame on this show.
We're not gonna. Producer Josh is absolutely right. We're not gonna yuck anyone's yum.
No. I just want to know, like,
I just didn't know. The funny thing is, and this is why I was like, oh, the writing in the show is very good. She doesn't seem to know that she likes that.
My question is, wet willies,
Yeah.
they suck.
Uh-huh.
Why would a tongue in the ear be any better?
It's the same thing.
But why is it like sexy?
Although now I'm reassessing all of those erections I got when I got swirlies.
We'll be right back after the break.
Just a technical do. You know, the toilet water in my ears.
picturing-
In my ears is just.
I'm picturing the guy dunking you. And he's like,
What the fuck? I only ever got one swirly, I guess. And then the guy's like, what the fuck?
you got swirly to completion, and you just
Oh my god! I know we never ever followed up on making T-shirts, but swirling to completion might be the winner.
I don't know.
Oh no!
I don't know who's gonna see this podcast, and now I'm not always like this, you guys.
The best part is you just got done talking about getting engaged. Like, I hope people watching this are like, someone's gonna marry him.
Oh God, is she gonna see this?
She might see this. My mom has asked to see this podcast. Now I have to go back and be like, Mom, 1, don't watch it, and 2,
no.
I don't have anything to tell you about myself.
I don't know. How do we get back on track? What are we talking about?
I honestly.
Hey, what did we watch this week?
We
Jay-
watched.
Okay.
Producer Josh he's deep in this tangent now.
Okay.
All right. Let's start.
So-
We'll start back at the beginning. This is a show where
So
two dudes.
So he, I don't remember. Does he put his tongue in her ear?
He does.
Okay, but then we cut to him holding
yeah.
the murder weapon.
Yes.
and there's a lot of blood.
There's a lot of blood.
and we don't see her.
No,
We don't actually ever.
we don't ever. But to be fair, we don't ever see him either.
We don't ever actually see her dead body.
We also don't ever see him. We just see people with murder weapons and lots of blood.
So
We never see his face in these flashbacks.
He talks explicitly about killing her,
Yeah.
but we never actually see the act or the crime scene or.
Bear in mind, we are also in episode 2.
Oh, we only did watch one episode out of context of the whole show, didn't we?
And also, it was the second episode in the series.
I think they get the joke.
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So
Kind of blowing the wad a little quickly, so to speak, if they kill her episode 2.
well, no, but I just wasn't sure if maybe we would see her die,
And then we memento ourselves
and then
back to it.
we watch the progression of how we end up at that moment.
Oh, you know what?
I will say
that would be really weird to do in the second episode, but in the first episode I could see that happening.
I will say that there is a season 2. Correct me if I'm wrong.
There is a season 2, that is correct.
So,
Correct.
I mean, I haven't looked at the cast list, but if she's still in season 2, then it's presumably maybe she has.
That's not. We don't know that though. It could just be
More
dragging.
sure,
we
sure,
could-
sure,
we
more-
could be
more
dragging out.
flashbacks.
This whole thing could be a flashback.
Um,
It could have been aliens this whole time. They could crystal skull us.
the next scene has a line that I loved.
I bet I wrote it down too.
This is the diner scene.
Yeah.
They're at the diner.
This was the moment where I first noticed that the writing and directing were meant to look like a comic book. By the way.
I honestly did not make that connection at all until now. Thinking about it, I'm like, oh, it's very, very deliberate.
Yeah.
They're at the diner, and this is a part that confirmed for me that the world has not actually ended. There are other people.
Yes.
This is not quite literally about the end of the world.
Right.
They're at the diner, and they realize they have no money because she spent all the money at the laser
On
tag
laser
place.
tag. Yeah.
And you say the line because I'm pretty sure it's the same one.
Is it when we flash back to her father?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
they talk about not having money, and she recommends that they just ditch. They just dine and ditch. And
Dine and dash.
dine and ditch and dine.
I think it's
Dashing, dining.
Dine and dash.
Super smash dash dining.
Diners, drives, and
Diners,
dashing.
driving, dashing.
Anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
It cuts back to her dad, who dramatically has her by the shoulders. It's a young girl, has her by the shoulders, and he says, "Honey, if it's a chain, it's free range."
Which is the best.
It's so funny because it makes me laugh on so many levels, just because she talks about you don't want to rob from a family store.
Well, she specifically says to him as they're eating, she's like, well, there's only one rule, and that's that you never steal from a smaller independent business.
Yes.
Which is so funny.
One of the best parts, though, is then it cuts back to the flashback where he says, if it's a chain, it's free range. And then it cuts back to her, and then she says, yeah, and basically everything else is just funding terrorism. And I couldn't, the comment, the fact that they made such a big social comment in, the tiniest bite-sized 2-second morsel, it was at that point that I was like, this is pretty great.
So they leave the diner, and this is the moment where we
Did you catch when she talks about the man?
what?
So at that scene, she goes, yeah, if you steal from a chain, you're just taking from the man. And then he goes, what man? And she goes, the man. And he goes, what? And she goes, And then that's it. they never address it.
It's at this point of the episode where we end up at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Like chronologically, this is what happens to where
Yeah.
the beginning of the episode starts. So, she's all horned up
Yes.
and tells him to take his shirt off. So
Yes.
he takes his shirt off while driving?
yes.
I guess?
No, so she is all horned up, and she tells him that they gon' fuck.
Okay. Right.
And he says he'll pull over, and she says, no, keep the car driving. I guess, and I don't know her sexual history, but she seems like a young woman.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the kind of sex that she'd been having wasn't adventurous enough, so she wanted to have sex while driving? So he goes to take off his shirt, and that's when he fucking hits the tree.
Seems very dangerous.
It seems super dangerous to, like, jump right into that.
So
Like, could you imagine showing up at school on Monday and being like, hey, guys, I lost my virginity, and everyone being like, oh, that's awesome, and then the next day being like, I'm gonna fuck on a jet ski. Like, that's a pretty big jump.
we all knew that kid in high school, though.
Which one?
I don't know. So this is where I wrote in my notes, like, oh, I get it, because he doesn't have a shirt on.
Yeah.
The thing that they're talking about that's going to explode is the car.
Yes.
And then I wrote in all caps, does he kill her?
I
Because
literally-
we
is it
get another flash forward.
Yes, it's at this point I put, this is an interesting show, I'll give it that. I wonder how it ends, but I don't think I'll watch until then.
Does he kill her?
Does he kill her? Did we talk about the sexual advice flashback though?
We probably breezed over it.
So while they're trying to take off his shirt, it cuts back to a flashback of James's father apparently explaining sex to him, because James is talking about how he has to be more involved in the sexiness. And it cuts back to his dad, and his dad just says,
God.
son, it's okay for women. They can just lie back and think of England,
yeah,
but
yeah,
not
yeah.
men. Men have to be England.
I do remember that. That's what I do. They hike towards the main road.
Literally,
are you,
just
are you England in that situation, though?
Yeah, I have to be England.
Yeah. Every time I hear God Save the Queen, I am just rock hard.
Except. We'll be right back.
Now that I think about it, they were playing that in my high school bathroom. It's all coming together. It was middle school. I was lying.
Yeah, I do get confused because
I can keep going.
I do get confused because I try to be England, but sometimes I just think of like
Wales?
What is Wales?
Wales.
And then I get lost.
I love it when I'm like, I'm gonna give you the monarchy, and they're like, which province? Fuck.
So it's at this
Do
point.
they have? They don't have provinces. They have like steads, abbeys. I don't even know.
We meet the British man. He picks them up. They're hitchhiking.
Technically, they're all British men and women.
Well, okay, all right. Oh, okay.
The British man. Yeah, we did that at the beginning of the show.
I don't know. Producer Josh likes that one. And he picks them up, and I don't get, because you know how normally when the scene like this happens, you get a sense of like, this guy's up to something. This guy seems like a genuinely nice man who's just like, these troubled teens are up to no good. The dude doesn't have a shirt on. They're clearly up to something. I'm just gonna like bring them somewhere.
Here's one of the things about this show. The show lacks any sort of moral center, you know? Like, you can always build character archetypes off of the moral center, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, if you're basing it off the two main characters, neither of them have
their moral compass is all over the map,
Right.
right? But then the idea when you have a character like that is that they're placed in a society, and then that society provides moral context, right? You know that they're doing something bad because someone else who's not the main character is doing something good.
right.
You have context. You know that Wade Wilson is a shithead in Deadpool because everyone around him isn't a shithead.
Right.
But that's the thing is you meet this guy and you're like, oh, he seems like a normal guy. He's going to be the normal Joe who shows just how out of step these two are with society and morality. But then he talks about going to buy a dog fighting dog.
Does he mention it's a dog fighting dog?
Yeah.
Because I remember, I must have missed that because
she says that only weirdos would pick him up like a weirdo because he's tits out, which I loved. And then she calls him a proper day release, which I also found amazing. But the guy who picks him up seems like just a normal guy. And then they're like, oh, is that your dog? And he's like, yep, I'm going to go get her for dog fighting.
I made a quick note. I don't know if you knew this. People in Britain, they drive on the other side of the road.
And on the other side of the car.
Crazy.
When they get into the van and he gets in on what is our driver's side as the passenger, I was like,
it's another visual for the YouTube watchers.
And she likes getting his tongue stuck in her ear. This is.
I also made a quick note.
And they're on the wrong side of the road.
I also made a quick note that British British cursing is like delightful. British cursing is just like it's cute, you know?
Yeah.
Like they throw all these words around and it's like, oh, okay.
I feel like if I ever went to London, someone would be making fun of me. Like they'd call me like a right tosser, and I'd be like, thanks.
Yeah, they especially if you were in fact being a wanker.
Yes, yeah. I would just be like,
I deserve that. So they end up.
You're right. I am being a wanker.
We find out that James's mom is dead.
That comes as a shock to Alyssa.
Yeah, because he told her.
I wonder if
I don't remember.
I wonder if like the trauma of his mom dying
made him kill an animal and made him
like it's like the Dexter parallel. Yeah.
Right. So we end up at a diner. And there's a whole bunch of more flashbacks of him just holding a weapon and covered in blood and the whole time I'm like,
does he kill her? I think one of the best parts about the diner scene here, though, at the beginning, is it shows like Alyssa doesn't like this guy.
No. Well, so that goes back to my point. Like when you first meet this guy, there is no moment of like ominous music and weird angles and weird lighting to be like, this guy's bad news.
He's the bad guy.
Like he just
are they in trouble?
Yeah, he just like is there to be like, it's just a bunch of kids that got in trouble.
There's something about this show and about this diner scene in particular that makes it so, like, that makes this seem so real. Like, it makes the world of this show seem so real because at first she talks about how much this guy sucks and James is like, why does he suck? And she's like, well, he was in the army. Yeah. He's probably killed people and he's getting a dog for dog fighting. Like, it doesn't matter that he's married with kids. You know, he's a piece of shit. And James is like, no, he's not a piece of shit. And then she goes on to insult his family. Yeah. And he takes it in stride very much as like she's an angsty teen.
She steps over the line pretty harshly.
And the army guy takes it completely in stride and is like, you know, that's just uncalled for. Don't be rude. And she's like, whatever, fuck you guys, I'm out. And she leaves. And he said, like, the army guy says to James, like, huh, women, right? They're bats or something like that. And some delightful British slang. And at this point, you're like, yeah, I guess he's getting a dog fighting dog, maybe. And he was in the army, but he's not a bad guy. He's just helping him out.
So.
And at that point, you're like, Alyssa's being a B word.
Much like in the words of Billie Eilish, he in fact was a bad
guy. Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So he's a tough guy. Likes to grab on dick guy.
This is the scene that we're talking about.
Yes.
James goes to the bathroom. Old man follows him into the bathroom.
Martin is his name.
And they're they're in their respectful areas of the.
I did very much enjoy that it had a trough. Like, you don't see troughs in media very much.
Maybe it's a British thing.
Maybe. And if you're British, use a trough and watch this show. If you're literally those three things, let us know.
they're socially distanced, if you will, to start.
Would you say that they're socially pistanced?
Huh?
No.
Huh? No.
Huh? Looking at you, Josh? Huh?
No.
Anyone? Okay.
No.
All right. Well,
and he
I
looks over
provide a certain flair to this podcast, and I don't appreciate this from you guys.
the moment that he looks over.
Oh, you know.
You're like, oh, this guy's
Okay.
bad news.
Yeah.
And he actually comments on James's hand.
You know that I did appreciate that writing tool where it looked like he wasn't blatantly looking at James's hog.
Oh, but he was.
But he was.
So then he sidesteps directly next to him.
Yes.
Grabs the hand in question that is burned.
Yep.
And places it upon his
Hog. Dong.
Well, sorry to interject, but he
Yeah.
kisses
He
the
kisses
hand.
hand.
Oh, he
Yes.
kisses the hand.
Yes.
Oh God, it just makes it so much more awful
Yes.
and creepy.
It is very awful and creepy.
Here's my question.
Yeah.
James lets it happen.
Here's
He
the
doesn't
thing.
seem like
In the inner monologue, he openly expresses that he lets it happen.
he doesn't say that he enjoys it. He doesn't seem like he enjoys it. It's mostly just like
In the inner
he
monologue,
just lets it happen.
in the inner monologue, he actually, I'm just paraphrasing because I didn't write it down, but I think he says like sometimes things happen to me and I just let them happen.
Because he doesn't show any emotion. There is no like
Yeah.
this is wrong, and he doesn't slap his hand away, but he also doesn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
He literally just
Raises the question to me, like, is James actually a psychopath, or does he identify as a psychopath, and therefore in this particular scenario, does he really not have feelings about this, or does he feel like as a psychopath you're not supposed to have feelings about this?
he does seem detached from just like normal life, right? So as this is happening,
I actually wrote, yeah, of course the old guy's a gay pervert.
Alyssa walks into the bathroom and sees his hand on top of his junk.
Yeah.
And she is the alpha in the situation. And she essentially she grifts him out of his wallet.
Okay,
She's basically just like,
I do love her, and I love
this
that
is
her...
messed up. Give me your wallet or I will tell your wife.
I love, and I said this, I was like, I love that she is already in this scenario a master manipulator.
Yeah.
Because she's like, I'll tell your wife, I'll tell your parent, or I'll tell your family, give us your wallet.
So they use the wallet to go to a hotel room. And this part is...
This is the moment where I wrote down, I know she's supposed to be a non-likable, likable asshole,
Yeah.
but I don't really like her. Because the woman at the counter says like, oh, don't you want a double room? And she's like, no, we want a single room for double the sex.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay.
She's like, all right, you guys are 17. This is wrong, but here
You're-
you go.
You're dumb and I don't like you.
They go into the room and she's like, turn on porn. And
Yes.
he's like, okay. And then he does, and they just like awkwardly watch porn. And he
Here's-
doesn't seem to enjoy it. Neither does she.
Here's something that I wrote down, and I think this probably is an overarching theme in the show that somehow we managed to get about 54 minutes into without me bringing up.
Yeah.
This whole show, it seems like it really represents the currents of the sociology or like the roles that society places on people, but to an overexposed degree, right? Like James, men in society are supposed to be manly. They're supposed to be England when they fuck. They're supposed to be
Or Wales.
Or correct me if any of you are British and you know British history, maybe Wales is the one getting fucked, so maybe they want it like they're, I don't know. But the point is, James feels like he's like, the character is supposed to be dispassionate. He's supposed to be strong. He's supposed to be manly. And then he takes that way too far and becomes a completely detached psychopath, right? So it's like taking the idea of what a young man is supposed to be and way overexposing it. And then you have Alyssa, who, like, you take this idea that this young woman is supposed to be free-spirited and adventurous and independent and sexy and alluring, and then you crank the gain knob up to 11 on her, and you make her, like, kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And, like, and then you get this moment where they're watching porn, and, like, in theory, he should be this, like, voracious, charismatic man, but he's not.
But she asks him to put the porn on, not to, like, set the mood or anything. She's just like, just put it on.
Right, because she thinks that that's what you're supposed to do.
I think that she might be just as messed up as him.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that
minus the violent tendencies.
But I think that's really the point of this show, is that you have these two people who are very messed up because, and this is, I think I wrote this down. The very next note that I have is, this is just a story about all the different ways people are shitty to one another.
Okay, I had a really, really good point that I wrote down that I wanted to get your opinion on. So,
yeah,
she goes to the bathroom and he hears her crying.
Yes.
And he actually, I wrote down, is he going to kill her? Because he waits waits in front of the door,
yes,
pulls a knife out of his sock, and waits in front of the door as if, like, when she comes out, he's going to kill her. But then he changes his mind when he hears her crying.
Yes.
Which means he is capable of emotions.
Of empathy.
Here's my question. So she leaves the hotel room. She gets on a payphone, and she calls her mom.
Yeah.
And doesn't say anything. Her mom's boyfriend answers. You realize that A, her boyfriend's a dick.
Yeah.
And B, like, she doesn't seem too concerned that her daughter's, like, missing or gone.
No.
So the whole relationship is kind of messed up.
Yeah. But there's a point early on in this show where she says something about, like, if my mom gave a shit, it would be an abusive relationship.
Here's my question. What year is this? I only ask that because she uses a payphone.
Yeah.
The clothing is very, like...
I figured it was
it's
like 90s.
It's like ambiguous.
Yeah.
The
car that they crash, he talks about it being very expensive.
Yeah.
It would only be expensive. The car looks like it's from the late 90s.
Neither of them have cell phones. We actually don't see a cell phone at all. She
Ever.
uses a payphone.
Yeah.
They go to a diner all the time.
Yep.
So, like, my question is, like...
Cash is still very much a part of society.
Where does this take... Like, when does this take place?
If I had to guess...
I feel like that...
I would say it takes place right around the, like, mid-90s.
That kind of changed everything when I realized, like, oh, there is no, like, explicit timeline.
Yeah. I'd put it at mid-90s.
Yeah,
if I were just guessing.
Even the way that the hotel room is set up, like, it looks like a 90s hotel room.
Yeah.
Like an old motel.
I don't recall there being a computer on the desk at checkout.
Right. So that adds a little bit to the story of, like, okay, so who...
But they also play laser tag, so when did that technology happen?
Oh, I guess that's true.
That seems like it was, like, early 2000s.
So the episode ends with, after her phone call, she pulls a letter out of her jacket pocket from her dad.
Yes.
And she reads the letter. She goes back to the hotel room. Porn is still on the TV.
Yeah.
They kind of just, like, cuddle on the bed a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to the murder scene again. And then the episode ends.
So here's the thing that
It's a pretty quick sequence of events.
Here's the thing I pulled out from the end of this, right? So it was at this moment that I realized that this story is literally just all of the ways people can be... Laser tag came out in the 1970s and early 80s? Huh.
When did, like public laser tag,
both consumer companies and the military were using newly introduced technology. So yeah, 70s and 80s.
I suppose. So yeah, I mean that could fit the time frame.
Yeah, I could see this being in the 80s to mid 90s.
Yeah. Anyway, you were saying.
It dawned on me that up until this point of the show has only been about how people can be shitty to one another. You can steal your dad's car. You can want to kill the girl you're traveling with.
Even small things. Like you can dine and dash.
You can dine and dash.
Yeah,
you can molest people. You can dog fight. You can you can do all of these different things to be shitty people, and these people are just they're living in a world of shitty people that has made themselves shitty. But then they have a moment where they're sitting on the bed, they turn off the porn, and she says, "Do you want me or do you just go along with things?"
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that.
And he says, "I want you." And it's at that point, like, she asks him to cuddle with her, and it's at that point that I wonder what this show ends as, because the reality is he's had any number of opportunities to kill her, right? He said, "I can't kill her here because, you know, the car will tie me to it." But the reality is they walk for miles to get to the road. He could have killed her anywhere in the woods.
Here's $1 million question.
He could have killed her in the hotel room.
$1 million question. If he truly wants to be with her, then why does he want to kill her?
Or
that
is he
what
saying
the
that's
show-
what he wants?
Or is that what the entire show is about?
Well,
Like,
when he says, "I want you," does he want to kill her, or does he want to actually go on this adventure with her?
So I wanted to touch on something you were talked about a second ago about
Right.
like aggressive masculinity, right?
Oh, or also her mom's boyfriend being a dick to her,
Yeah.
and her mom not giving a shit about it. Like, it's all just stories of people being shitty to each other.
So true crime is
So popular.
super popular right now.
Oh my God.
And you learn about all the
Welcome back to the You've Never Killed That podcast, the show where two dudes
Who've never
change their entire branding to hop on the true crime bandwagon because it's so goddamn popular.
But
I'm your host, Mike. Oh, sorry.
are we actually?
I thought we'd just do a quick rebrand.
Yeah, you can just hit delete and then we'll start. Just count me down and we'll start from
the whole episode over.
But
if you're wondering what this timer is,
it is very true because like a
callback.
lot of these true crime documentaries and podcasts and shows, they dive deep into the psyche of these killers, and a lot of times it's like people who had crazy childhoods and trauma
Yeah.
with their parents and their
Yes.
family, and they kill animals, and like they
Yeah.
want to be overly aggressive and masculine, so they decided to channel that into
murder.
actual violence.
yeah, yes,
And that comment just like full circle
Yeah.
went into this show.
absolutely.
I think what I really enjoyed is that like you teeter between like cheering for these two and like not.
Yeah.
You're
I know.
like-
I definitely was. All right, let's do this real quick.
Okay.
I want you to give me one moment in this show where you really liked James and you really felt for him.
The end.
Yeah.
When
Now,
he had like a moment of like
when he puts
when
the
he puts
knife
the knife away because he hears her crying and
Yeah.
like actually feels real emotion.
Yep. Now, give me a moment where you really liked Alyssa.
When she makes the phone call, because she's like, I hate my mom and the guy that he's with, but I'm just gonna call just to see if there's anything left.
Yep. And for me, it was definitely the scene where James puts the knife away, but when she is looking out for him, like I felt bad for him when he was being molested, assaulted by that man, because
Yeah.
I was like, if he is not a psychopath and not traumatized, this is just adding trauma.
Yeah.
Like, this is not so I like felt really bad for him. I felt bad for the character in that moment, but then I also felt really good for I really felt for the Alyssa character when she's the one trying to help him without realizing that she's
Yeah,
helping
yeah,
him.
yeah.
And she's like, no, like, killing people isn't cool. Like, this guy killed people in the army, but that doesn't make it cool. And I was like, oh, I do really feel for these characters. But then also, I kind of want you to do this too. Give me one moment where you just fucking hated James. You were just like, fuck this character.
I don't think there was ever a moment where I hated him. It was more just like I feel bad for him. I don't think there was.
I guess I shouldn't say hated, but like where you weren't rooting for the character.
I don't think that there was a moment of that either. I just feel like you don't know enough about where his trauma came from.
I think
because we watched episode 2.
I think every time they show a flashback, I'm always
Yeah.
like, oh
Yeah.
God, like this is like no.
Okay. And then so for Alyssa, I would say just anytime you can tell that she's like
Trying too
forcibly
hard.
being annoying
Yeah.
or forcibly being a brat.
I'm a free spirit. Let's fuck while driving. We're gonna have sex in the
Because
motel.
at the end you realize that the entire thing is a front.
But
she's-
that's the thing is this whole show just about people putting up fronts and then becoming the shitty people that they have to become in order to keep those fronts up?
I feel like the character development of these two, because this is early on. This is
very early on.
I feel like it's going to be turned upside down.
You think so?
Yeah.
So I think the big question that everyone watching and listening wants to know:
Does he kill her?
Does he kill her?
Well, let's talk about it. Let's do what we always do.
Yeah.
Who's dying? Who's getting?
I guess I
What's
just
the-
want
what's
to
the name of
bang to bang, die, dying, bang. What did we came
Once
up with a better
again,
one.
Leave a
comment
and let us know
Yes.
what we should name this segment.
Gotta be better.
Who's dying? Clearly, someone does.
Does someone, or are those just fantasies?
Oh, God damn it! You always have to.
I'm just saying. I don't know.
I feel like someone dies.
I think someone dies too, but here's the question: is it Alyssa?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't think
I'm
so.
asking your opinion. You don't think
I don't think so. I think it's set up in a way to be like, she dies. Just kidding.
if I had to take just the biggest stab in the world, I think it's the mom.
That's an interesting choice of phrase.
Right? It's very relevant. How apropos to this episode.
Let me take a big stab
Let me take a
at
big
this,
stab.
at who he killed. Let me shoot this gun in the face of who I think he.
Let me cold-blooded murder this estimation of mine. It's fucking dumb. If I had to take a guess, and I'm just spitballing here, I think James ends up killing the mom's boyfriend.
I feel like the mom's boyfriend doesn't play that big of a role.
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, if
Hey.
he kills somebody,
You don't know?
I could.
Neither do I.
It's almost as if we haven't watched the rest of the show.
Let's
Do they bang?
I would say so.
I think they bang too. I would say they bang.
Do you want to wrap up your thoughts, or
Yeah,
do you want me to go
yeah.
You can go first.
This show, I'm kind of astonished to find out that this show was made for broadcast television.
Dude, overseas is crazy. I have a bunch of family in France.
Yeah,
and
that
when
makes sense. Your name is Bellamy.
Yeah, Bellamy. When I was in,
I think it's offensive when he says it like that.
When I was in France as a kid, I remember watching TV.
Yeah,
and like
Madeline smoking cigarettes is one of the wildest things.
They do crazy things on TV.
Make jokes about kids smoking cigarettes and blow right by it.
Like, I remember there was a moment where it was like a soap commercial.
Yeah.
And the woman was like fully nude, like soaping up her body, and they were like, soap. And I was like, what?
So many different things.
Like, they can do that?
They can do that.
Anyway. So, yeah, I mean, it is surprising to us as Americans.
Good old, yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
I think one of the things that really astonished me about finding out that this was made for broadcast television was that I can't imagine an American demographic that would appreciate this being made like a comic book in the way that it jump cuts and inner monologues and flashbacks.
Knowing that changes a lot for me.
I can't see the average American broadcast television demographic being like, that's something I'd be into.
Okay.
So that was surprising because I thought this was a Netflix original, and I kind of equated it to being like Umbrella Academy, where I was like, yeah, it's weird, but it's also Netflix original. So yeah, they're taking the chance on that kind of content. I think when I realized like this show is dark, but it's not dark and like, "Mur, mur, I'm gonna kill you, bang bang, look how dark I am, bang bang, you're dead," like that.
I don't think I've ever seen that show. But
Dexter, that is
sure,
Dexter.
sure.
That's what Dexter is.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Is it some fries, motherfucker? The people at my local McDonald's hate me.
Classic dokes.
James Dokes. No, I think that like this show does a really good job of portraying humanity, right? Mm-hmm. Like it does such a good job of making these characters, and whether they're tertiary characters, secondary characters, or the main characters, they make them real humans. And there's something about that is both very off-putting to watch.
Oh yeah.
It makes it very weird because it's almost visceral, but at the same time,
too real.
It's also really, really good.
Oh yeah.
It makes it really, really engaging. And I don't know if I'm going to watch this whole show just because I don't think it's necessarily in my wheelhouse. And it's not like I'm hurting for shows.
Yeah.
But I could see how this would be a very good show if I do give it the time to watch all of it. If I had to give this out of 10, I might give it like an 8.9.
That's a very high score.
Yeah, I think once I realized that this show is a comment about people are constantly shitty to one another, and I don't know if they're going to take that and make that really, really dark, and these characters are going to be shitty to each other, and they are going to, one of them is going to kill the other one.
Yeah.
That might happen.
Oh, wow.
Or maybe this is a redemption story about how it's the little things in our humanity that connect us.
Yeah.
And that's what makes us not the monsters that these people are at the beginning of the show. And they show that they can be that even being surrounded by monsters themselves. I think all of that would make this a really, really good show.
So producer Josh has pulled up the
Rotten Tomatoes score.
93 reviews.
93% on the thermometer.
And then 90% for the audience score, which is like crazy high.
I think it deserves that. I
will say a couple things. There was never a point in this episode where I was like bored or annoyed or like didn't want to watch anymore. Yeah. The story is interesting. The pacing is interesting. Yes. The art direction and direction period is interesting. Yeah. Acting is great. I was engaged the entire time. To your point, there are two things about this show. It's definitely a show that you have to be in the mood to want to watch.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that threw me off, is I was not in the mood.
It's very dark. It's a very you internalize a lot of the things you see. Yeah. And like, it is a good show. You just have to like want to be able to watch a show like this, because sometimes you watch too much of these shows and it just kind of puts you in a weird mood,
Yes.
The other thing I want to say was,
it's also weird coming off of a Schitt's Creek binge and then jumping into this.
The other thing that I describe the show as, which I think you will totally agree with me, is that this is a show that I would say, you know what, put it on the list. I'll get to it when I get to it.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, it's a show that I maybe plan on watching at some point. Maybe not anytime soon, but like it'll be a show maybe in a month. We're like, oh yeah, End of the Fucking World. I'll watch that.
What other shows did we watch that really landed on that list?
There's a couple. I mean,
I feel like
we've done so many of these.
It falls right in there with shows like Atypical and The Expanse for me, where like those were both really good shows.
I do really need to go watch The Expanse, because everyone has raved about how good it was, and that one episode we were like blown away, and then I just never went back to watch it.
Exactly, and I never went back to watch it, and I would totally agree. This show is right in line with that.
It's like it's good enough to be in the queue.
Yes. The problem with doing a podcast about TV, though, is that queue gets very long.
It does.
Extremely long.
This show does a lot more good than it does bad.
Yeah.
And, I think your 8.9 was deserved. It's still a little high for me, I would say.
You always rate things a little lower than you know.
I would say it's like 7.8. Just like right below an 8-point score. Yeah, it's good. There was never a moment where I was like, okay, when is this going to be over? There was also never moments where I was like, ugh. There were no ugh moments.
You know what I think, though? I think I might rate things a little bit higher, because I think I might have higher hopes for writers than maybe is realistic.
True.
Like, I look at this and I'm like, if this is a show about people being monstrous and about people finding, good in each other in a dark world, that would make this really nice. Who knows? Maybe he just kills her and he's like, huh, bitch, get good. Like, if that happened, maybe it's not that.
So that was End of the Fucking World.
Maybe when he blows it, she just stabs him through the chest. Like,
okay, so now that was End of the Fucking World. That was End of the World. I just wanted to get you your last joke. Producer Josh is reaching into the hat. While he does that, make sure, if you aren't already subscribed to the YouTube channel, you can watch us on there.
Just go ahead and hit that little bell.
And
you can get notifications.
New episodes every Monday.
We're also on audio, Stitcher, iTunes / Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else that you can find your podcast. You can listen to our sexy, sexy voices. If you are listening, you can find our sexy, sexy faces on YouTube. It's a thing.
Leave comments on shows you think we should watch, or
tell us how we should be more engaged in our social media. We will start arguments with anyone.
Things we got wrong, things we got right. Josh is reaching into the hat. What do you got?
What do we got? What are we watching next week?
Wizards of Waverly Place.
Oh no. Okay. All right. Belle is leaving, but I will stick this out. I will be here through the end of the show. I thoroughly liked our Sam and Cat episode. This one is Selena Gomez, I believe. So I'm here. Well, how many seasons we got?
This is
how many seasons of Wizards.
What did we get ourselves into?
Of
we just
Waverly
went from a introspective analysis of the human nature
of coming of age in modern society to
what is this? 2 kids own a hotel? What is this one about?
That's a callback to our very second episode. I love that. That was the second episode we ever did. That was the
man.
first randomized episode.
So
We did. Come on, we made it through both the Salmon Cat and iCarly. Like, we can do this. We can do Wizards of Waverly Place.
Oh boy. What do we got for seasons?
We've really established a pattern of great show, not so great show, great show, not so great show.
I mean, the entire point of this whole podcast was like, there's
we don't know.
so much TV.
So much TV.
What do we got?
We don't know.
We
don't know how
got
many.
the-
Producer Josh is throwing his hands up in the air like he may or may not care. We don't. Everyone's jumping on our iPads now to find out if we. How many seasons?
This is great content, but I can't get IMDb to load
on Wizards
or any other page.
Waverly Place. Okay. Wizards of Waverly Place has 4 seasons. 4 seasons.
roll the 4-sided die.
It came out in 2007. This is a lot
2007.
older.
Just graduating from high school. Just
This is Selena Gomez though, so that lines up, I guess.
2007. You know,
This
just,
is pre Bieber Gomez, I think.
you know, just graduated high school. Just finished my last swirly that I'll ever have.
So the last I haven't had an erection in 13
We
years.
are watching season 4.
Season 4.
Oh,
Oh
no.
God, yes. This is when they get desperate. Oh boy. All right. Wizards of Waverly Place, season 4.
How many episodes?
I don't know yet. I don't. Season 4 has a lot of episodes.
Oh my gosh.
I'm seeing 21 on here.
Okay, roll the
29.
How do you want to do that?
We'll roll the 29-sided die. Thank God Gravity Falls invented that. These are all such great callbacks.
How do we want to do?
Just roll the 6-sided die. If we get even, we'll do the first 20. If we get odd, we'll do 9. Fuck it, I don't know.
Evens is the first half, odds is the second half.
Yeah.
Evens.
Evens.
Okay,
Thank God.
so-
Okay, so roll the 20-sided die, 1 through 20. That's the episode.
13.
Season
right
3,
in the middle.
episode 13, Magic Unmasked.
Oh my gosh.
This is scandalous.
All right, read the description.
Josh, what do we got?
I've got nothing.
Oh, he
you
doesn't
got to
have it
read
pulled
the
up.
description.
Oh, you still can't.
Yeah.
Oh, you do still have nothing. I see that now. Okay, well, you know what? I just would like to say thank you to our producer Josh for doing so much. You know what? He really helps us out, and I'm thankful that we can step in and help out here.
Leave some comments for producer
Show
Josh.
some love.
Anyway,
Show
go ahead.
some love.
Episode 13, season 4.
Season 4, Episode 13, Wizards of Waverly Place, Magic Unmasked. When legendary wrestler Luchador visits the substation, Alex discovers she's the reason he quit wrestling. She helps him restore his honor by organizing a match against Jerry. Come on, I'm not as bummed now.
It'll be.
I'm a little bit. I know producer Josh is a huge wrestling fan. The wrestler is named Luchador, so there's going to be Luchador masks, and I'm excited to see how this plays out.
See him excited about what the set's going to look like for next week. Join us next week. Join us every Monday. We'll be here watching an episode of Wizards of
Waverly Place.
Waverly Place.
We got so far into this episode.
We'll see you next week.
Okay, bye, everybody.